James Gunn revealed the upcoming slate of movies and TV shows for the new and rebooted DCU. I personally liked pretty much all the projects that were announced, but the one which caught my attention the most was The Brave and the Bold. We're finally gonna get to see Robin again in a live-action movie after almost 30 years. It'll introduce Damian Wayne, and it's gonna be based on the amazing Grant Morrison Batman run. So I'm pretty excited for sure. There's a lot to be excited about, really. While we are already getting a Batman adaptation that focuses mainly on the character's more solitary depiction early in his career, we are also gonna get another Batman interpretation featuring him in a more advanced stage in his career and focusing mainly on the Bat family. But there's one question that's been frequently on my mind ever since the announcement. Just how big will the Bat family be exactly? James Gunn mentioned that the movie is going to allow them to introduce more extended members of the Bat family beyond just Robin. And given that the film will take inspiration from Grant Morrison's run, I think there's some educated guesses we can make about which other characters we might see. Since the movie is being described as a father-son story, we're obviously going to see Bruce and Damian Wayne. Alfred, I think it's a pretty safe bet as well. And I think this will finally be the time where we get to see Nightwing on the big screen. Since the relationship between Damian Wayne and Dick Grayson is fundamental in the character development of Damian. In the comics, he originally took up the mantle of Robin after Bruce Wayne had seemingly died, and Dick Grayson took up the mantle of Batman, and he brought in Damian Wayne as his Robin. It was him that took Damian out of his shell and made him able to actually put his trust in someone for the first time in his life. He connected with Nightwing even before he did with his own father, and they share a beautiful brotherly bond that I think is very likely we're going to see in The Brave and the Bold, because that relationship is one of the best aspects about Damian. Now, as most of you know, there's been a lot of Robins, so that's why I ask myself so much how big the Bat family will be in the DCU. In the New 52 inspired animated movie universe, they decided to simplify the Robin history by going from Dick Grayson directly to Damian, effectively skipping Jason, Tim, and Stephanie to simplify things, which is something that I could definitely see them do in the DCU, just as a means to keep it simple for general audiences, even though I really wouldn't like this. But let's try to speculate a bit just for fun. Jason Todd in reality would be very easy to introduce in the movie. They could simply have an altar in the Batcave for a deceased Robin. It's an easy and immediately understandable identity. He's the fallen Robin who died in action. He could serve as a great way to add some dramatic tension and establish the danger of being Robin, while also serving as a great and simple piece of world building which could add a lot to the movie in very little time. And it could also serve as a great setup for a future sequel if they ever wanted to adapt his story. So in my opinion, Jason could be very likely to exist in the DCU simply because he's easy to introduce. After Jason though, comes Tim Drake. And this one really stinks for me, because in my opinion, Tim is the Robin that's most likely to get skipped. And look, I was born in 1998, so Tim Drake is actually the Robin I grew up with. He's my personal favorite Robin. He was introduced as the most intelligent and capable Robin up until that point. And he was really the first time where Robin was portrayed as legitimately cool in my opinion. He had the cool red and black suit that I love, and he was always shown as being really skilled and able to work on his own. So much so that he was the first Robin to receive a solo comic book series. He also had a fantastic run as Red Robin from 2010 that is amazing. But unfortunately, since then, DC doesn't really seem to have any idea on what to do with Tim Drake. He doesn't have an established personal identity or a niche like Nightwing or Red Hood have, and that's part of the reason why I think it's unlikely we'll get to see Tim Drake in The Brave and the Bold. He just doesn't really seem to be high in DC's priorities. And even beyond that, in the original story where Damian debuted in the Grant Morrison run, his first appearance was of him breaking into the Batcave and beating the shit out of Tim, who was active as the current Robin at the time, to the point where he almost killed him, and that served as a great point of tension for Damian and Bruce throughout the story arc. But even in the original comics, Tim just sort of disappeared after this, and didn't really have much impact in Grant Morrison's run, so he's unfortunately very easy to replace or omit entirely from the story. I mean, look, if it were up to me, I'd like to see them adapt most or every character in the Bat family and be as faithful to the comics as possible, but most likely, I think they're gonna try to simplify things a bit and condense things. But the Bat Family isn't only Batman and the Robins. Another character who is likely to be a part of the DCU is Barbara Gordon Batgirl. Given that she is the daughter of Commissioner Gordon and also almost had her own solo movie recently, so she seems to be a character that both DC and Warner Brothers are interested in pushing onto general audiences. So while I'm not sure if she might appear in The Brave and the Bold itself, I think it's safe to assume she will be introduced eventually. Cassandra Cain is the second Batgirl, and she actually already appeared in the DCAU previously, though I think that most people would prefer if that version of the character is just ignored and retconned, because it really differs from how she is portrayed in the comics traditionally, and really just misses the point of the character. I don't think that she will be in The Brave and the Bold, but it would be a fun character to explore in a sequel, given that both she and Damian have similar backgrounds, being that they are both children of assassins who were abused and indoctrinated into becoming murderers with little humanity. After her we have Stephanie Brown, but as we discussed previously, if Tim Drake is unlikely to be adapted, then Stephanie Brown is really unlikely, just because of how tied her character is with Tim Drake's. She's a really fun character both as Spoiler and Batgirl, and she had a great comic book run as Batgirl around 2010, but I doubt she'll be a part of the DCU Bat Family right out of the gate. And of course, I don't know if you've noticed, but the Bat Family is friggin' huge, and I mean huge. No matter how faithful to the comics the DCU ends up being, I highly doubt they'll adapt every single Bat Family member. I highly doubt we'll see Huntress, Harper Row, Duke, Batwoman, Wingman, Batwing, Azrael, El Gaucho, and Harold, all from the jump, and you know how badly I want to see Harold. Come on now. But that's why personally, I think that the best way they can handle the entire Bat Family thing is by keeping things ambiguous. And by that I mean that they should only explain some background of the Bat Family, which is relevant for the story they're telling in the movie specifically. And there's no need to detail the entire history of all the Robins prior to Damian. There's no need to specify if Batman has had any other partners besides the Robins. That way, if they wanted to, they can introduce any Batman-related character in a future movie without spending too much time and exposition. It would be simply understood that there are many Bat Family members roaming around the DCU. We don't really need to see the origin of a character like Huntress, for example, when we first meet her. She can just be introduced as another established Gotham hero, tangentially related to Batman, and her background could be further expanded later on. But the concept of a Bat Family serves as a way for general audiences to quickly understand a character, who they are related to, and from what corner of the DCU they come from. So that's what I think. Bruce and Damian are pretty much guaranteed, Alfred as well, Nightwing is very likely, but anyone else beyond that, there's no really way to be sure. Barbara Gordon is pretty likely as well, not as much as Nightwing though, and Jason Todd is highly possible simply because of how easy it would be to just mention a death in the family. And Tim, poor Tim. But what do you think about all this? How big do you think the Bat Family will be in The Brave and the Bold? Which characters do you want to see the most? Who do you think is going to be the villain? It could be Roz and Talia, but it'd be cool if they adapted another Grant Morrison villain, like Professor Pig or Simon Hurt. So yeah, let me know your opinion about The Brave and the Bold in the comments, the James Gunn one, or the other cool one. You know the one.